but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. We have got Keith Patterson with us. He's just knocked himself off for whatever reason, I don't know, but he will be back. Steve Hasty is joining us at some point, but welcome to the programme that kickstarts your Newcastle United weekend and a game finally on the horizon. Newcastle, of course, playing Gateshead this coming Saturday at the International Stadium. And before we address what Mitch is wearing and what on earth Zoroastrian cult means, I just want to congratulate our Down syndrome team who have won the Dynasty Cup. They were among thousands of young people from countries across Europe playing in a Spanish tournament last week, and they have been crowned winners. And those of you who follow the Newcastle United Foundation on Twitter at NU_Foundation, you'll be able to see the celebrations there of the team to welcome in family and friends who were at the it looks like the Falcon Stadium. So well done to you guys. Enjoy your moment. And that is another trophy in the Newcastle United cabinet, which is absolutely great news. So well done, lads and lasses. And on to the next one. Anyway, on to Mitch and this wonderful costume you've got on. Black and white, Mitch. What does it all mean?
It's an Azeri Elders hat. My friend Andy was in Azerbaijan. And he can categorically state he hasn't seen a Macam in Baku. And while he was there, apparently they said that the next great prophet would arrive in black and white, climb a mountain and ask for a canny bag of tuna, and I open my big mouth, and then there you go, you see. Suddenly you're in a minor religion. So blessings to all of you. But it's a fantastic hat, as always. It's certainly better than the other one he was going to buy, which smelled of horses, apparently, which I was quite worried about. So.
Well, it looks fantastic, mate. Well done.
It's very smart, I think. I feel I suit it very well.
In the words of Rod Stewart, you wear it well, mate. Keith is very jealous. I can see just by his face. Okay, we've got lots to talk about tonight. The WhatsApp group was going mad. Lots of things that we could probably stick into the chat tonight. And as we know, some things go a little bit crazy on this particular program. Has been another appointment at Newcastle United tonight, and that is the appointment of Simon Kappa as Chief Financial Officer. I think we all knew about this a few days ago, but we've been waiting for the official club announcement. He was previously the Finance Director at Sheffield United PLC from 2007 until 2010, and then spent 12 years with Leicester City, where he was the Finance Director. And in that respect, he's bringing 16 years of experience in supporting business operations and organizational growth within the football industry. And we need to remember that during his time at the King Power Stadium, he played a prominent role in supporting the club's development, with revenues rising from 20 million to peak at 200 million as Leicester won the Premier League. So, Mitch, another member of the backroom staff in the boardroom who is coming clearly with the job of improving Newcastle United's financial fair play.
Yeah, and if you look at it, these kind of appointments are essential to where we want to be and where we want to go. The ghost ship that was Ashley's man, Ashley's club, basically had Penfold doing most of these jobs on his own. You know, and so many of these jobs should have been being done by professionals in their own field within the industry, and that's what we need to be appointing. And we need to be appointing the best we can find. And somebody who's grown revenues tenfold over that kind of period is the kind of person you want on your team, surely. You know, and so I think he comes with a decent pedigree. He comes with an understanding of the Premier League as well, and I think that's really important. Comes with an understanding of the implications of what he does on FFP, and so. Again, another piece of the puzzle that we need in place to be properly functional as a top-flight football club. And it's clear as day we're missing all these pieces. We're still missing loads of pieces. But each appointment like this, and then he'll have a remit to say, right, what staff do you need and want underneath you? and they'll want to appoint those. It's no doubt, there's no secret that we're taking certain areas of the ground for additional office space because we need it, because we've never had the staff to fill the offices. And so, all these things are positive moves. And whilst we're really ahead of the curve on the pitch, off the pitch, this is the kind of steady growth that was always going to happen over the next few years.
Keith, it's another big appointment, off the pitch. We'll come to football matters later on, but it's a great one, isn't it? Somebody comes with 16 years of experience, mate. It's a fantastic appointment.
I hope he's not a bad luck charm. I've just seen he's worked at Sheffield United, Leicester. They've both been relegated. So I hope he brings us better luck than that. But seriously, if you're getting somebody from another, established Premier League club, which Leicester were, you'll know his stuff. And there's more people needed in Newcastle to catch them up to where they were. But all these appointments will gel one day, and hopefully, in the meantime, while they're building the team up off the pitch, Eddie Howe can keep coaching these people and getting the most out of them, and getting us to do what some people are starting to say on TalkSport and in the press will be the impossible this year, which would be maintaining Champions League again. And when you look at it, you do need that caliber off the pitch, and you need it on the pitch. And when you look at look at what's happening, you've got to ask yourself, if the top four remain what they were, who's going to stop Spurs, Chelsea, Liverpool coming back in? It'll be a big ask this year. There's a lot, and I think that's why people get edgy with signings and things. But all this is needed. You know what I mean? We didn't have a Silverstone, we didn't have a Darren Eales, we didn't have a Dan Ashworth. And then if you look at I'd say the biggest area of recruiting is player finding. People that are going there represent us right around the country and abroad. To find new players, and I think that's more for me more than anything's coming out now. You're seeing on FFP where people are doing it by sponsorship, which I'm sure Newcastle looking at. But the other thing they're doing that is selling players, and some of the player sales that's gone out there are incredible. And then when you look at it, you look at our club, and the Saudis have tried to buy. There's been one rumor out of our club, and that's Maxi to Saudi, which probably won't happen. But if you look at how many players have looked at from other clubs, Liverpool 2, Chelsea 5, that they've looked at, sniffed at a bit, but even people like Wolves are selling players. So it's important that we get these people in and we build up a big mentality, and we do build up youngsters coming into the club so we can get player sales, because that would be massive for FFP in years to come.
Okay, George. Good evening, mate. It's it's an interesting appointment. Another big appointment behind the scenes.
It is. Every business needs an executive group, a tight executive group, and that's what we're building, isn't it? Each one to know what they're doing, but also each one to know how what they're doing affects all the others. It's simple business logic to me, and we're going about it the right way. And I think it's these appointments are great, and bodes well for the future is how I would put it. And with his background and his experience, as Neil just said, a tenfold increase in revenue. My goodness, what would we have given for that when Ashley was here? A tenfold increase in revenue. Ours was a tenfold decrease in revenue the other way with Ashley. So yeah, I mean that's great. And as I say, a nice tight group of executives running the football club in that way is very, very important, like any other businesses. And we just got to look forward to what they produce. And I certainly am looking forward to what they produce. I noticed one or two people commenting the fact that I'm in Mufti tonight. I'm smart. Well, sadly, I'm smart because I've been to a funeral. And I'd give a shout out to the lads whose funeral it was, George Davis, who was a magpie, but also in the Hall of Fame for the Great North Run. He if you do the run as you have, Steve, if you get to the Wardley feeding station, George Davis used to run that every year from the year that the run started. So that's how he got into the Hall of Fame. So that's where I've been today, and good to catch up with some people. Just a sad occasion to do it then. Going back to football, it's I think that's all sounding good off the pitch. And let's move on. Let's see what they can produce for it.
Yep. Okay. Got to talk a little bit about matches that we've got coming up, Mitch. And Tom Dixon obviously just reiterating what's been confirmed now, that Newcastle United and Rangers TV will both televise the friendly at Ibrox, $7.99 on both platforms on their official channels. And that'll go to charities nominated by Alan McGregor. I don't think anybody has any issues with that. And the Gateshead game is, of course, being televised, as we mentioned the other night, on the National League's TV channel at the price of $9.99. And I think we were talking about this. I mean, Stu was trying to work out the maths, but we were estimating that maybe Gateshead would make 6 pence per person who bought the stream from the $9.99, which means that they'd probably make more money, as in the words of Stu Penman, with a bucket outside the ground. But
yeah,
forgetting that for the moment, I think what I wanted, the reason I'm going to bring this up was just what Sean's saying. He says paywalls are a nonsense for friendlies and incredibly ignorant of the fact that the clubs have got older fans that don't have the ability or knowledge on how to use the technology. He says this needs to be looked at. So, I mean, again, I'll reiterate, we're certainly not against Alan McGregor's charities making money from the game. I personally think, had there been a $7.99 charge for the Gateshead game, and Gateshead were going to get the money, or a bigger percentage of the money, I would have been happy with that. I think the fact that it's on the National League websites or TV coverage, it's been shared, as we understand, between the whole league, and Gateshead are going to get a percentage of that, and a very low percentage. I find that a bit daft, really, Mitch. But do you agree with what Sean says or not? Do you think paywalls should be scrapped for friendlies?
I think every club at every level is now looking at every way possible to develop an income stream. But equally, every league, every conference, every level of the game are looking for ways to make an income stream. And look no further than what's been going on at Wrexham about how people want to make big money in different ways throughout each level of the game. And you've got, this is the American influence on the game, 100%, while everybody was wetting their pants about the influence of the Middle East and the Far East. Whilst we weren't looking, the Americans have all crept in. We've got some more American influence coming with Leeds, with the 49ers group. And there's two golfers who've purchased a stake in Leeds going forward. And this is the way it's going to go. And to be frank, they don't care about the old ways. They don't care about the old fans. They don't care one little bit about history, because they're from a country that has very little history of its own. They don't understand history. They don't understand, and getting their heads around a system where you can be relegated blows their mind. And so they just want to make every bit of money they can. Whatever bizarre deal that the National League have with whoever provides their streaming service, whereby the clubs get so little and the streaming service gets so much, one would hope that every other National League team that's playing a friendly has similar costs and similar fees, which are then filtered down to every club, and then Gateshead makes a bit more money back off of all of that, but you just don't know how it's going to work. You don't know what other friendlies are being arranged with whom and where and what they're going to charge. It does seem a bit of a nonsense. Sadly, as for older fans, the people in charge of the various levels of football, from the Premier League to the Football League to the National League, they don't care. They really don't care, and they've not cared for a long, long time. I've told this story before, and I'll tell it again. When I was chair of the trust, and we had that game moved against Plymouth to Tuesday night at the drop of a hat, and people had trains and planes and all sorts booked in hotels, the response was, "We do what Sky say." that was pretty much it in a nutshell. It was a two and a half paragraph waffly letter. That was a word salad that basically said, we do what's going to say. And the broadcasters and the people arranging broadcasting really don't care. They don't care about history. They don't care about old fans and the old ways. They want everybody to be up with a digital platform and a digital age and get with it, grandpa. And that's that attitude.
Okay, Keith, what's your take on charging for friendlies for people to watch them in the comfort of their own home?
I think when you look at a club like Gateshead, I think it's critical that the people of the North East, and especially Newcastle people, Newcastle supporters, and Gateshead all get around and give it one big payday. But you've got revenues, and Stu Penman eloquently explained them the other day that when you look at national TV, it's like a consortium where everybody gets a share. So the fact that Gateshead's playing that game, they're not going to get any more than the next team in the National League. So it's shared out by so many. But for Gateshead to put circa 10,000 people in the stadium and then get 600 quid off the online mechanism, I think maybe we've missed a trick in the North East. The revenues they'll go looking for, go looking for gate money, which I'm told Newcastle's given Gateshead all the gate money. And I'm told Newcastle will have 3/4 of the ground. They'll got online revenue, which we hear is hundreds rather than tens of thousands. Why is there not something being opened up for donations so that people can get Gateshead off to a right start? And why is there not adverts? I mean, Tyne Tees could show my age, Tyne Tees, but ITV could show in our region adverts. Two teams from the north have been to Wembley last season, Gateshead and Newcastle, and they're going to start this season with a big game at the International Stadium. And to do that, they could have sought a sponsor, somebody, a major sponsor, North East company, who's doing fabulously well, that wouldn't miss 50 grand worth of advertising. Because in the world we're in now, 50,000 in market money is small. And if somebody could have sponsored that game for Gateshead, then give them the ticket money, then give them whatever national TV given. But for me, ever the dreamer, never the optimist, I can't see why Tyne Tees, ITV, whatever we call it, Northeast Football didn't put the game on live. Why didn't it come on live on our televisions and then pay a lump of money so that the people in the Northeast could sit and watch Gateshead versus Newcastle, just as a goodwill gesture to get the season going? And if you did that, the TV money that Gateshead get would dwarf what national TV is going to get them. But I would have liked to have seen the sponsor come forward, or even an increased gate fee, and just say, normally this gate fee would be X pounds, but we're going to put £5 per head on it towards Gateshead's start of the new season, because these companies live and die by revenue, and Newcastle fans are so passionate, so keen to go and see the start of this season that whatever price it was, and I'm not being silly, but I'm saying if it was 20 quid and 10 of it was a donation to Gateshead, I think a lot of people would have happily paid it and just thought that Gateshead are deserving, you know what I mean? And they just haven't had enough paydays. But after a trip to Wembley and then the first friendly against Newcastle, I would like to have seen a load of money go in today. And I think they missed the trick with sponsorship and local television.
Okay, George. Good evening, Steve. By the way,
good evening, guys. Hi,
George,
Steve.
George, just come to you on this. We're supposed to you. But just do you agree? Do you agree with just in the principle of charging for friendlies to watch them on the internet?
Yes. Yes and no. I mean, I'm a bit with Neil and Keith in different ways. I would like to see Gateshead get more out of it. That's plain. And if some way could have been done to do that, then fine. On the other hand, if that's the way National League do it, and Gateshead know that, then Gateshead won't be surprised at what they're getting. They'll just take what they get. It's nice that they're getting the stuff off Newcastle, etc., etc. The other side of it I want to go into is about exposing particularly young people in the area to all sorts of football, because in my opinion, slowly but surely, the grassroots football down to schools and slightly higher than schools is slowly but surely dying. And if there's a way of giving it more exposure, lower league football exposure, by putting it on the television in that way, like Newcastle playing Gateshead. And Keith's right, the two Wembley teams playing together has got to be worth something. Then I'd like to see that, because I'd like to see people have more exposure to seeing live games. So that's the other side of it for me. In terms of friendlies, well, the Rangers one speaks for itself because it's Alan McGregor's testimonial. It's only the hard bit about Gateshead getting 6 pence ahead instead of sharing in a big whack. That's quite sad. On the other hand, if the National League's doing this properly, it could be at the end of the season that Gateshead will get quite a nice lump out of it because of all the other games that are being streamed. So, but I'm split down the middle. But my underlying thing of mine is that every opportunity to expose local football to television and to a wider audience, I would jump at every opportunity, because I have a worry about what's happening in the lower reaches of our game.
Steve, we've spoken about a couple of things tonight. Obviously, Mr. Kappa coming in on the financial side of things. So just a brief thing on that from you first, and then just on the, you know, we just said we're not against the whole charging $7.99 for the Rangers game. We think the fact that it's going off Rangers TV and Newcastle TV, you know, to Alan McGregor's chosen charities is a great idea, great concept. I think we're all just, as we discussed the other night on the show, just a bit upset that probably Gateshead are making a bit more money from this. You know, I mean, Stu worked it out. It's because it's on National League TV's channel, and you know the arrangement is that it all gets put into the pot and everybody gets a share. So it's probably not as much as Gateshead could have made, but they'll make it in other ways. Newcastle, of course, donating all the ticket money to them. But just on those 2 points, Steve.
Yeah, we'll take the second one first. I think what we'd probably need to establish from Gateshead is, yes, it's on the National League TV, but does the arrangement for those games cover friendlies, or do clubs have an alternative? I mean, that's one of the questions that you know, some of the media out there could ask of Newcastle United and ask of Gateshead as the week goes on. Not that it should really make much difference in terms of whether or not you want to watch it. It's just where the money's going, you know. And I think, you know, there's pros and cons either side. But as I say, it would be perhaps beneficial if some of the Northeast press ask Gateshead, you know, you've got it on the TV that runs through the National League. Is the arrangement just for league games, and are you using their platform but getting a little bit more for friendlies? Let's explore that one, and let's see if any of our press colleagues who watch the show can maybe delve into and come up with an answer. On the appointment of a new finance director, I actually bumped into him yesterday, believe it or not. A very pleasant gentleman. Wanted to know a little bit more about what we'd done with the food bank and the way that the club had integrated with the food bank. Said that he personally was very interested in that aspect of the club in terms of the charitable work. He explained to us very, very briefly. We're just in the car park outside when we bumped into him, and he came over and had a quick chat just by the Sir Bobby Robson statue. It wasn't a formal meeting, so I just wanted to get that before somebody goes, how's he met him and nobody else has? How did you get him before the trust? All that type of crap. But he explained that when he was at Leicester, that the community was very much at the heart of the way that the owners of Leicester City operated, and from a personal capacity, he wanted to carry on that vein, and it was something that he was going to be encouraging the club with, which was good to hear. But you know, I don't think he'll have much arm twisting to do, to be perfectly honest, because with the foundation and with the work that we know that the club does externally through a number of charities, I think we can certainly say that the region will benefit even more when you have someone who's previously worked in the football environment, but at a club with had the community at heart at Leicester City. So all positive, Steve, all positive. In a week when I suppose we've had one or two little jittery moments with the fan base, but that's the nature of the close season, isn't it?
Well, it is. It certainly is. And that's the nature of Newcastle United, unfortunately, at times. But we will come to that, I'm sure, as the show progresses. As you know, everybody on a Friday, we have a hell of a lot to get through. And yeah, it's Tweet of the Week. Tweet of the Week certainly become one of the more popular sections, and lots of people contribute to this. I do like a good photo, as everybody knows. That cat's certainly taking no prisoners on that guy's t-shirt. Fantastic, that. Okay, I was a pizza delivery man. What a cruel job. You can see them, smell them, but you can't eat them. Oh, I know how that feels. I was a gynecologist. Moving on. I said, meet you by the big clock. And speaking of big clocks, Morph's making a comeback. 50 Shades of Clear.
Oh, dear me.
I knew he was the BBC presenter in trouble.
Good one. Now, we like to test Steve Hasty on this show with his pronunciation. So, Steve, away you go.
Oh, yes, we've seen that one before. I'll give that one a miss. I'll bypass it.
I thought I'd catch you out, Steve, but no chance. Let's see how you like not playing with your ball for a week. Very good. Thank you for that one. Lots of these coming in. I don't care how nice the hand soap smells. Never walk out of the bathroom smelling your fingers. Good advice there from the George lookalike. We've all seen texts like this. Where are you at 6 a.m? If you're not dead, you soon will be when you get home. I said last night I'm going out with the lads for a few. He said that's fine as you're going to your mum's to watch Britain's Got Talent. It's 6 a.m. the next day. How am I meant to know what time Britain's Got Talent finishes? Are you for real? Yeah, I don't think we would have got away with that. I took my son out for his first pint, says Jimmy. Got him a Foster's. He didn't like it. I had it. Then I got him a Carlsberg. He didn't like it. I had it. It was the same with the Guinness and cider. By the time we got down to whiskey, I could hardly push the pram. Ever wondered what evaporating milk looks like? There you go.
Oh, very clever.
And seeing you on the telly, lad, you looked off your bracket. Sad news from the Nestle factory today. A night shift worker was crushed beneath a case of chocolate that fell 20 feet off the storage racking. He called for help repeatedly, but every time he shouted, "The Milky Bars are on me," his colleagues just cheered.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's terrible.
Oh, dear.
Cheers, Melbourne. We do like these football ones. Tweet of the week, Brian Cohen, FC Nazareth. And this one's from Kev. I did debate whether to put this one up, but it is the Liam Lane Banksy, who has become rather unique on Twitter and on Instagram. Good job, Alva Leeds not on. That's all I'll say.
exactly.
Looks like your man bought herself a van, said the Blasphemy Project, BJ Champion.
Dear me.
And he's only won one trophy, and Man United have erected a huge statue of Eric Ten Hag.
Very like that.
Brilliant, Mr. Anderson. Someone's found Steve Bruce's hat, says Stephen Kennedy.
Super.
And I'd think twice about using these urinals, lads.
Oh,
Yeah.
Stephen says they'd be even better if the mouth twitched when wet. Dear me, oh.
the music played as you went in the door.
New fine dining restaurant in Sunderland.
Quality.
And thanks to Pete from Bristol for this lovely pic of his wife, but the competition was called Fact Hunt.
Oldie.
She's sulking again. I don't know why I put up with this, says Mr. Anderson. And
I can think of two
from,
reasons, but never mind.
From Jimmy, I really need to finish the movies. I think I missed the plot twist. Harry Potter 52 of Greenville crack possession. How about you and I find a dark room and see what develops? Thank you, Soda Pop Kid.
Very clever.
And this one, sometimes while my friends are at work, Jimmy makes boxes and he leaves them at their house.
Cruel.
One for the Star Wars fanatics each week. Here it is. Only Star Wars fans will see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gong.
Very good. And your profile said you've got lots of dark wavy hair. I do. It's on me back. Cheers, Doug.
God.
There was a photo. There was a photo circulating last week of a guy on his stag do completely stark naked, which I've got to be honest was sent in numerous occasions to say it was Steve Hasty in a lookalike. I've chosen not to use it in that respect, and I've done a little bit of artwork to cover this guy's dignity. But this was funny from Chris. What really shocked in Holly's lass. Brilliant, Chris.
That was the Mackhams. Aye.
My mate was telling me that he failed his exam in Aboriginal music. I said, "Did you redo it?" I'll get me coat.
Oh, God. God.
Thanks, Jed.
Yeah,
Did you redo it? Oh.
This is the Mayoress, lad. She's going to autograph one of your balls.
That is a carry on.
Spock, have I ever told you that I love M&M? I prefer Skittles, Captain. No, not the candy, the wrapper. That's illogical, Jim. Why would you eat the wrapper?
Very good. That.
Can I call you back? I'm shaving me privates right now. How rumors get started. And wife, the car's not starting. Dashboard shows the sign of a person sitting on the toilet. Husband, what? Send me a picture.
Yeah.
It does look like a bloke sitting on the toilet. I'm about to put some cucumber farmers out of business, says this guy. And, where's the Mackham fuming outrage, said Zara. Jordan Henderson leaning towards accepting a life-changing Etifac offer. 33-year-old set to decide imminently. Wow, that is funny. If this latest BBC controversy hasn't been nicknamed Operation Hugh Tree, then I'll be bitterly disappointed. Recently, my 6-year-old said to me, "Dad, those turtles are playing piggyback. I knew it was time to have the talk, son." I said, "Those are tortoises, not turtles." Another Star Trek one. I asked the waitress for a quickie and she slapped me. Apparently it's pronounced quiche. And my friend went bald years ago but still carries around an old comb with him. He just can't part with it.
Oh,
Another good one from Soda Pop Kid there. Cup winners, fire and skill. He changed it later on to Fairs Pup winners. Bobby Moncur outside the ground meeting Kev's dog.
clever.
Best fancy dress winner this week. I will love it if we beat them. One of the Barmy Army. This photo is killing me. He looks like a political leader addressing the nation about waging war in a foreign country. And just pulled the door handle off. Safe to say it was as surprised as me. And somebody tell her Chucky's about to get us, says Paul Whitfield. And I bet it hasn't got a cup holder, says David Cook.
Very good. Very subtle.
Facebook, again, we removed something you posted. We removed your post because it's true and someone will take it personally and think it's about them. It's against Facebook community standards to post the truth.
Probably true.
Last couple, break me and you get 1 year bad luck. That's nothing. Break me and you get 7 years bad luck. I'm at this. Bought the wife a talking parrot last week. Took it back today. Poor bugger couldn't get a word in. Winner this week. When only half your girlfriend's luggage arrives, but you're not going to let it ruin your holiday. Great stuff. Keep those tweets of the week coming in. There was a few late ones. I'll use them next week. That is all from Tweet of the Week. Okay, let's move on to financial fair play fines, Mitch, and or should that be non-fines? Stephen Parker goes, Man United, 280 million over financial fair play and get a fine like that. Pathetic. Yeah, I mean, look, this we've discussed it with Man City and Everton in recent shows, but Manchester United are complaining at the fine they got. Is it the end of financial fair play, Mitch?
In the Barcelona one's even worse. You know, how much massaging of books is it taking UEFA and Barcelona to work out between them to get to where they could say, well, it's about 300,000. You'd be hurrying with that. You know, we know Barcelona have been playing financial Russian roulette for a long time, using these so-called economic leaders. Man United have obviously shown very little regard for UEFA's financial fair play for a club of that size, of that nature, who have the kind of budget they've been working with. They should quite easily have been able to work with UEFA's numbers. However, again, just feel like it's not even a slap on the wrist. It's sort of a tickle of the feather, isn't it, really? You start to wonder, do the football authorities actually have the balls to stand behind their own rules? You look at the Premier League with Man City and Everton, they've both gone to commissions because they obviously don't have necessarily the faith in their own rules and how to apply them. This is UEFA, Man United and Barcelona working out a number that would appear to be fair so UEFA can walk away and so we've applied financial fair play here and we've done our job, but they haven't really. And it sort of suits everybody and everybody walks away happy. I guarantee you, if that was Red Star Belgrade, they'd have a ban from European competition and would have been made an example of. If it was, I don't know, somebody like Marseille, possibly the kind of thing they would do. If it was one of the German clubs, you bet your bottom dollar they would do it to one of the German clubs. I think they'd love to do it to one of the German clubs and absolutely rip through the German ownership model and make a mockery of that. And so I don't see these as robust action. I don't see these as severe action. And I don't even see this as deterrent. As part of me says, do you know what, owners, if you're listening, just ride fucking coaching horses through the hole. Be damned, because that's a mockery of it all. It really is. Where's the deterrent to clubs that work on the kind of numbers that Man U and Barcelona work on, who've got God knows how much debt attached to both clubs and they don't care. And so what's another $250,000? What's another 300,000? For me, it's paper tiger like.
Yeah, Michael says, why not say FU to FFP, go all out and buy 10 world-class players and accept a transfer window ban, fine or points deduction. It won't matter because you already have the players. George, this financial fair play is just becoming a farce.
Well, it's the Premier League that's the farce. I can see the sense and why people want to have fair play, financial fair play. But like everything that our Premier League does, the first action they do is to, as Dean's already said, drive a coach through horses through their own rules. And it just makes an even bigger mockery of our 18-month wait to get any result about our takeover. It just shows that when they want to be deliberately obstructive, they will be, provided the right people are pressing the buttons. But when it comes to one of the right people being in the dock for doing wrong, they can't pluck up the courage to do it properly. And so they come out with a fine, which Anita's already said is derisory by any stretch of the imagination. If you look at the money going through Manchester United, the debt they've got and all that sort of thing, and suddenly to find them this paltry amount of money, it's almost petty cash. And it is actually asking clubs to say, why we're bothered? Why bother? Just let's do what we like and let them chase with. And enough did it. I don't know what they would do, because they haven't got they don't seem to have the wherewithal or the balls. They let it go on and go on, and it'll come to a sticky end, is my worry, and we'll end up with half a dozen clubs running the whole thing.
Yeah, lots of people have watched that documentary that David was talking about. A few people mentioned it the other week, Steve. We've watched it, the 1 hour documentary on Man City. And I think that tells you everything we need to know that's wrong with financial fair play. But the Manchester United fine today, for breach of financial fair play, it shows you really that there's, it is just on, it's on dodgy ground.
Yeah. What was it described as? A technical breach. Not a full breach, a technical breach. You know that it means nothing to Man United when Nick DeMarco doesn't get the call. That's all I'll say, because they don't need him to defend them, because they're quite happy with it. You know, they might gripe that it's £285,000 and it's a technical thing, and the only gripe will be coming from people within the club because the owners couldn't give a monkeys because it's not the owner's money, is it? You know, as far as they're concerned, I suppose there again, maybe the owners would complain because it's £285,000 that would have gone to their back pocket rather than going all the way to UEFA. Who knows? But I mean, the Man City one, I did watch the documentary. I must admit there was very little in the documentary that I wasn't aware of, because the Man City saga of how the club had operated over many years was something that during our takeover and even before that we'd studied quite at length. You know, Mitch and I had spent an awful lot of correspondence back and forward talking about Man City, talking about the way it was done. And then when we were looking at the takeover, when we knew that the Saudis were interested, again it was running that comparison, looking at Man City, looking at what they'd done, what we considered wrong, and other people are playing fast and loose, I suppose, because Man City, you've got to remember with that documentary that it was one-sided. You know, it was very much the case for the prosecution, and there was nothing there for the case for the defence. And again, this is where the likes of a Nick DeMarco and a team, and I think it didn't specify in the documentary that Man City turned up with something like 20 or 30 lawyers in tow, and there was two people from CAS of when it went that far, and they just drove a coach and horses straight over the top of them. And CAS don't have the authorities, you know.
And that again reflects what goes on with football bodies.
Yes.
And sports bodies.
Yes.
They talk about their legal team, and their legal teams are undermanned, ill-prepared, and underfunded.
Yeah.
And the amount of stuff now that's going to go through lawyers to decide sporting outcomes, because of the financial involvement in many different sports, the organisations and the bodies in CAS and many others are going to have to wise up to this. And they're not up to the task.
Yeah.
And again, that comes back to the Premier League sending Everton to a commission because they're not really sure how robust their own rules are and how they can apply them. So they're going to let somebody else work that out. What an absolute farce.
Yeah. They also are so complex because there are so many loopholes and so many get-outs, or so it would appear, because let's face it, if you allow a club like Man City to operate in the manner that it did for as long as it did, you allow Everton to get away with what they've got away with over such a long period of time, and then you're thinking, well, is there anybody there that understands the rules? Does it take you 4 years to actually get to the point where you get to the bottom of your own rule book before you can then turn around and go, I think we've got them on this and we've got them on that? That's the farcical side. And as you say, Man City and Everton and whomever, they'll have teams and teams of lawyers, and they'll have gone, oh, you did that wrong, but this is how you can get out of that. Oh, you did that wrong, but if you say that, oh, and there's the loophole there. It must be like the biggest spider's web, biggest scatter of bits of paper that go on the desk. It must be. I mean, that if you're a lawyer, you must be sitting there going, thank you, money, you know, because that's what it is at the end of the day. And I suppose that's the case. That's the way that the situation is right across it. Sport, as you say, Mitch, you just look at the Casa Semenya situation where, the authorities there on that particular one, again, didn't understand the rules. So complex, something that was so complex, speaking to the wrong people, getting the wrong information at the wrong time and not understanding. It's not till you then come up with a decision that somebody else pops up and goes, by the way, that you forgot that, and that, and we'll do you. And then the whole thing gets ripped up and starts again. It's absolutely crazy. It's really.
I think it's probably worth just diving in as well. I'm not convinced everybody watching is understanding this is UEFA's FFP, not Premier League's FFP.
Yeah.
And this is something different than the Premier League one. This is UEFA's one for European competition, something which we are only just starting to dally with. But I think it's still important to bring up that, like the Premier League and like other bodies, UEFA are equally ill-equipped to deal with the big clubs in a legal fashion.
Yeah, lots of comments coming in on this. Hi, lads. So Keith, rules for one or 6 in his country and rules for others. Ban them from transfers for 1, 2 or 3 years, depending on the breach of the rule. Great show as always. Sean says financial fair play rule book has more typics on it than the old French copybooks. And there's no reason why financial fair play can't be a simple matter of arithmetic, clearly a deliberate quagmire. Stephen says the world of football is financially corrupt. The richer you are, the more you get away with it. And Bill says, let's see where the big 6 are without the EPL. And what about Everton regarding financial fair play? Well, that's going to be in October. Where else? They had another thing. Oh, yes, Barry asks a direct question to Keith saying, Keith, is there anyone who can enforce financial fair play legally if the Premier League and UEFA don't have the balls to do it? Keith, your views on this?
Go back. There's a few things. Somebody put on the screen says I look more kingly than normal. I've lost 2 stone. So I've gone from 15 to 13 in the last 4 weeks.
Well done, mate.
I've been poorly and couldn't diet and couldn't go in the gym. But when I got better, I went on a diet and I've shed 2 stone. So I was getting like a fat pig. So that if I look different, thanks, because it's been hard work. On the play and the fines, it's you've got to put it in perspective, and George and Neil's touched on it in terms of how paltry and how hideous the penalty that Man United's got. And sometimes it's good to step back and just draw comparisons. So if you took Man United and you took one of them employees that work for Man United, one of their key people is Casemiro, and he earns 420,000 a week. And if you give that club a fine of 280,000, it's more around the 60% of one player's wages. That puts it in perspective. If you enter a company, take a company like Tetley Tea, we all drink tea, so take them, their main people are the drivers that go around delivering tea bags, and they get about 350 quid a week. So if they have breached their industry rules and the people who govern food and drink supplies in this country penalise Tetley to give a similar fee, they will be charging them £200 fine because it's 60% of one of their wages. So if you put perspective, Man United are hugely wealthy, and 280,000 is the kind of thing they do as a donation to somebody. But to do that as an FFP fine is sending a massive statement out that not only do you not take it serious, Man United, we, as those in power to fine you, don't take it serious. Hence the reason we're going to charge you the most nominal amount, which is going to make a mockery of the whole showcase. And the comment earlier from that guy that said, why don't we just go and buy 6 players, is bordering on being true. I think Newcastle are playing it smart at the minute, and they're trying to play with a straight bat.
Yeah.
But if these fines keep coming up like this, then you've got to sit there and say, what is the point of complying? Go on to the other questions. Steve Hasty said he mentioned Nick DeMarco, and if Nick DeMarco had come into that representation of Man United, his fees and worth every penny would be greater than the sum of the fine. So what Steve pointed out, why would you bring somebody in to protect you, and where his fees would be greater than the fine you got? The reason you wouldn't bring a Nick DeMarco in, you would if you're Newcastle, because you know you'd need him. But if you're Man United and you're a big player in what is clearly a cartel, you know that you're not going to get the kind of fines that's going to destroy or hurt you. And you also know it's not worth getting a lawyer of the ilk of Nick DeMarco. Next point was what Barry said. I think he said, what happens? It's becoming more and more that the laws in football are being broken. So that's becoming more and more. And a lot of people, if you think the way they've dealt with Everton, they've binned it off. If you read the Man City video, if you watch the video, you'll realise that the cast people just missed an open goal. But I don't think they did. I think what Steve Hasty was intimating was that the time came when they could have ran the case properly. But what they did was they only went back, say, 7 years, and they should have gone back to when Man City took over. There's nothing within the law states that they shouldn't have gone back to when Man City took over. So if they took that case back to 2007, the 115 charges would have been multiplied. And so too with the fines. I've got a sneaking feeling that the reason that they did that was to let Man City off. So I think there's some deliberate actions there. But the Premier League seem as though they've got more balls for it. But then as soon as they get Everton bank the rights, they put it to commission and just say, well, you decide. So the answer to the question of the fan that's been on here tonight and said, what can you do? If you've got a party, suppose you've got Steve Hasty versus Man United, and Steve Hasty goes to court, Steve Hasty's lawyers can plead that Steve Hasty doesn't have the funds that Man United have. And that's what the Premier League and the UEFA bodies can plead. If they come up against somebody who's infinitely wealthier, as in Man City, they can plead to the courts that it's unfair that the law will be breached because these people are using money to procrastinate and delay. And courts, decent courts, fair courts, honest courts, will, in most cases, take into recognition that you can't afford to run a case against the big boys, and they will expedite things accordingly. And they will make sure that the man in the street doesn't get bullied out and gets his day in court and gets a fair hearing. So all UEFA, I think it was Barry Hogan who said, all UEFA's got to do, Barry, and the Premier League, is go with the right lawyers to the court and plead that these people are deliberately delaying and using 16 times more barristers than we are, and they're doing it because they don't want to face the music. And the courts are then tasked with saying, you know, any strong judge would turn around, George will tell you this, he'll say, you can play these games, but I'm not going to play them any longer, and I'm going to insist this case is heard, and I'm going to make it expedite. I want this case heard within a year. So yes, you can do it if the Premier League and UEFA have got the balls or the inclination. My fear is that, certainly from the Premier League's point of view, they don't want to bring down one of the big six. I think they would do it with, you know, it seems as though they've probably fined Villa and Brighton with as much as Man United, but I'm not surprised Man United's got a small fine. I'm not surprised that Leicester's just been battered for something for shirt selling, but I'll long to see the day when one of the old big six get taken to court by a fair court and charged accordingly.
I'll give you another example because we're talking about UEFA. Look what's happened to Juve this week. I mean, there's an example of somebody who, when you actually analyze what's going on, Juve had a case and the Italian FA fined them and took points off them, and they ended up finishing in 7th place. Now, because they've been done by their own FA, there's now going to be an investigation that runs through, because they were in the Europa Cup last season and the Champions League. There was going to be a case that was going to roll on to next season. And the potential was that they would be barred for Europe. Now, because the case would be held next year, it would be the 24-25 season that they would potentially face a ban. So what Juve did was they stepped in last week and said to Serafin, can we strike a deal with you? I tell you what, we've just, because they took the points off, we're now playing in the Conference League. And you know what? Tell you what, just chuck us out. Chuck us out now. Don't worry. We'll take the punishment now. Chuck us out of Europe. So UEFA went, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, great. Of course, what that means is that Juve are no longer going to be playing on a Thursday night. They're going to have fewer games to play next season. They're going to go for winning the league again, and they'll get into the Champions League next season. Financial fair play. That's pretty good. That the way that they have literally flipped the coin on UEFA, and nobody spotted what is going to be potentially happen. UEFA sitting there going, "Oh yeah, take the fine. Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, thanks very much." And Juve must be laughing their socks off because They're no longer going to be in a league that they didn't want to be in, playing on a Thursday night, playing behind the 8 ball against everybody else as they try and build ourselves back up to win the league. They've got less games to play. The slate's been wiped clean for them, and they probably will win the league next season, and they're back in the Champions League. You know, that's the way that UEFA operate.
Go on, George.
A good example of something Keith said about making the big courts making people do what they wanted to do. We've had it this week with Johnson, with his phone and his password, and the contempt of the High Court. I think somebody at the High Court sent a message to his lawyers and said, "Find that password, or we'll put him in a cell till he does." And yay! Half an hour later, he suddenly remembered his password. Isn't that wonderful? And that's what contempt does. Whether it's magistrates' court or up the High Court, every judge, magistrate's always told, you must not let people diminish the power of the court. That's exactly what contempt does. So it's a case of don't threaten, you do it. And what you do is you lock people up. And it's not the first time that I've been in that position where somebody's defied with. And even if you just send them downstairs to the cell for 4 or 5 hours, that's all it needs. That's fine. But you mustn't let them break contempt of the court. And I think that's what some of these big clubs are doing to UEFA.
It's what Man City's doing. What Man City's doing exactly.
The trouble that Johnson had was that his password was named after one of his kids, and he couldn't remember which one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's got seven legal ones and about 5 others he's paying for.
That's what I mean.
Allegedly, George. Allegedly.
No, not allegedly. That's where he is.
Unbelievable. Okay, well, great comments there on the financial fair play, and we are coming up to halfway through the show, so I will chuck in the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks also to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you want to order some, then you can go to their website, mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 01768 210 102. Thanks also to New Workwear. They were set up in 2018, and they are an agile and dedicated workwear provider. You can find them at their website, newworkwear.com. Thanks to Media Arts as well for all the help with the video side of things. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button under this video, hit the thumb up to like the video, and click share to share to your other social media. We're also available as a podcast on your podcast providers such as iTunes and Spotify. If you'd like to take out a cult membership, which means you get a cup, a pen, a membership card, a scarf, and entry into the monthly draw, then put your smartphone over this QR code now. It'll take you straight to the site. You can set up and pay a one-off fee of £25. Alternatively, go to NUFCmatters.com and check for membership. If you're a subscriber, you can apply for a free car sticker. Just email John at NUFCmatters.com to claim yours today. The new Shearer raffle is up and running. 150 tickets, £1 a ticket to win a limited edition Alan Shearer signed ball. Enter now at NUFCmatters.com. We've got a couple of events coming up. Newcastle United question and answer live with Liam Kennedy, Jordan Cronin and Dominic Skerr from Newcastle World and the Shields Gazette in association with NUFC Matters takes place at the Tyneside Irish Centre 11th of August at 7 p.m. and tickets are a £5. The Christmas event will be with Frank Clark and John Gibson, Thursday, December the 7th at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £15 from NUFCmatters.com. And Waddle, Keegan and Beardsley, the class of 84, with special guests, takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House on Westcott Road in Newcastle on Thursday, January the 25th. Tickets are available direct from the theatre, 0844 24 91 000, or go to the website for further details. And don't forget, starting on the 7th of August, you will be able to hear myself, Steve Wraith, on the Northeast Footy Breakfast. This comes to you in association with the Toon Radio. 7 o'clock till 9 o'clock, 5 days a week. Check out the Facebook for more details. Okay, a few people saying that they have a few issues. I mean, the rain is hammering it down in the northeast. So Virgin Media, BT, whatever you're with, could be having a few issues. They tend to when there's a bad weather cycle comes in and we've got rain for the rest of the night. So simply refresh your internet if you're watching it on the computer. Sometimes sorts it out. There has been a few issues with George's internet tonight, but they seem to be on the mend. And yeah, it's just one of those things. But refresh, and that sometimes puts things right. Certainly, the one thing that doesn't get put right is the loud music. So put your fingers in your ears because it is the day I met. The day I met, where we ask you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, and it is from Dougie Morris today. The day myself and Jackie met Matty Longstaff in the Stack. Dougie, brilliant photo, mate. Thank you very much for that. And good to put a name to the face with you and your lass. But if you've got a photo of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, then please send it in and we will feature it on the day I met. Okay, a few things coming in. Stephen Parker says, an old fella in front of me in the petrol station whinging on about the cost of the air machine because it used to be free. It's now 50 pence. I said, that's inflation for you.
Stephen.
Very good, dear. Stephen. Good one. Bill says, given we've got minimal commercial revenue coming in, do you guys expect any other large deals coming through in the next few months or years? Because it seems quite quiet at the moment. We've discussed it before, but Mitch, I will just come to you. Just any updates on this whole incomings? Has there been any kind of inkling that we might have some big things coming in?
I went off on one a little bit on Wednesday night, and I'm close to doing it again, to be honest with you, at the end of the day.
Not like you, no?
No. Is the transfer window shut? If we're at the same position when the transfer window's closed, yes, I think we'll all have something to get upset about. Why not? And there's plenty of time. Are things happening at the pace that I think certain people would like it to? Well, no. Eddie Howe made it very clear he wanted people in ASAP. Is that because we're paying a Newcastle tax on some players? Does that make the deals a bit more difficult to do? Well, this is where Dan Ashworth earns his money. Do I think that there may be a little bit of strife between everybody as has been suggested? No. But do I think that a healthy discussion is being able to be enabled? Yes. That's how teams work. And like we keep saying, if anybody could see the WhatsApp groups that we have sometimes, we don't always all agree. And I don't expect the entire team in Newcastle to agree on everything. Interesting that putting somebody in charge of finance in place has happened, or they're wanting him to sign certain things off before they go ahead with certain things. Everybody's getting their knickers in a twist about sponsorship deals. Let's be realistic. The Seller deal is literally still, the ink is still drying from the Premier League's approval of that deal. Not about approval of Seller being the shirt front sponsor, but the amount of money it was worth. And we can't do any other deals until that shirt front deal is made, because and agreed and approved in full, because that's the benchmark. And every other deal goes off that when you look at every other club. And so are we being hindered by slowness from the Premier League side? Yeah, maybe it's a little bit. Wouldn't surprise us. Nothing would surprise us, the level of pettiness that the Premier League will go to. Or to be, for that matter, anybody else in football. So I think Stop listening to the white noise. When deals are done, they'll be done, and they'll come out of left field, and it'll be just like the Tonali one. How? And we'll all go, what fuck? And I think we've got at least another 2 of them to come. Genuinely. Any other deal after that might revolve around who we can move out. Because we still have some players on Ashley time contracts, and that does hinder it. You've got to remember, we don't have the leeway that Arsenal, Man U, Man City, Liverpool, etc., have. And that every big move we make has to be right. We can't afford an expensive fuck up. We can't afford the equivalent of another Henry Savic. We just can't. We don't have that leeway. Other clubs do. We don't at the minute. The rest will follow. And so I think absolutely just sit tight and enjoy the journey and enjoy the process. I'll give you some crap on ASM. He's moving to Corbridge.
Well, there we go. Yeah, lots of unsubstantiated photographs coming from reliable sources, it has to be said, of people moving from A to B. Take that what you will, but until you see it in, in Newcastle United's website or Newcastle United's Twitter that anyone is in or out, don't believe the ITKs. Don't believe anybody who claims to have any knowledge on transfers, because they haven't got a bloody clue. And
look, it's even been stated on one of the bigger podcasts from one of the papers this week that getting stuff out of Newcastle United just doesn't happen anymore. Anything that people get comes from opposition clubs. It comes from agents. It doesn't come from Newcastle United. And apparently it's like getting blood out of a stone. And that's what we've been saying for the last 18 months, that once Ashraf was in situ, so many things got locked down. Even some of the bits and pieces that used to fill out us from certain individuals just isn't happening anymore. Because it's not worth, in some cases, it'll cost somebody their job. And I certainly don't want to be responsible for that. And so, things are locked down tighter than they've ever been. And I'm all for it. And like I say, I think just like the Tonali deal, the next deal and the deal after that'll come in, they'll just basically pop out of nowhere and slap around the face, and we'll all go, wow. And that's what I would like to see happen.
Okay, George, what's your views?
Well, this week's been interesting and frustrating in some ways, both at the same time, because the number of times I've heard Diaby's name mentioned this week has been legend. I mean, I can't remember how many times people have been getting on Twitter and other platforms and saying, we're losing him, Aston Villa's going to get him and all the rest of it. Why aren't we doing something about it? And my reaction is, well, okay, so he goes to Aston Villa, so what? And then the next day, the fee's gone up to 35 million now, not from 25 million. There was a thing from the other side, from the club side, saying they want 60 million for him. So what? And then a bloke asked me that when I said to him, "What are you worried about, man? We'll get other players. Harvey Barnes might come or whatever." And he accused me of living under a stone because I didn't know about Diaby. So I said to him, "Well, have you got a direct like Eddie Howe? Like, has he told you we've bid for Diaby? Because I don't know anybody else that says we've bid for Diaby, or anybody else for that matter. So carry on, and I'll carry on living under my stone. But I know who'll get the right answer first, and it won't be you." So it's been like that this whole week, particularly, of people just speculating and looking at numbers that other people are throwing at them, and not helped, of course, by that piece of tripe of an article by the Telegraph bloke. Is it Edwards or whatever they call him? I mean, absolute rubbish, absolute garbage that man wrote. It was historical and historically wrong. It was guessing wrong, and everything about it just reeked of somebody who didn't know what to write to get an article for his paper, and it was appalling. But it winds people up, and you get people coming on and saying, "Look, this is what he says, and if we don't do this, we don't." That just, for goodness sake, leave it alone. It's not worth it. Not worth getting your knickers in a twist about. The bloke's talking rubbish, and when it happens, you'll know, because it'll happen in the same way as Need's already said. The Tenali deal happened. It'll be bang. It'll be there. It'll be signed, and that'll be the end of it. And the Daily Telegraph is likely to be the last to know by my reckoning. So yeah, I mean it's frustrating. You've hit the nail on the head in many ways, Steve. At the moment, it's just Newcastle United, isn't it? That's where we are at the minute. Everybody wants to have a piece of Newcastle United, either in fact or in fiction. So, I'm confident it'll happen, and I'm not getting myself upset about it, other than looking forward to when it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit more polite yesterday with Supermac and Gibbo about Luke Edwards' article. I mean, I did read it. I managed to get a copy of it. I didn't pay for the Telegraph article, but it was just rehashed rubbish. It was a rehash of previous articles, but with a different headline. You know, more or less saying that Newcastle and the regime are going to come under pressure because they're short. They're going to go in short for the Champions League campaign. I mean, journalists do things for clicks. It's as simple as that. And Lucas is guilty as the next journalist, I'm afraid. And I think I've learned that over the course of the last couple of seasons, especially that they've all got a job to do. We have journalists on this show. We have Ross Gregory. We have and we have Liam Kennedy, who come on a regular basis, and they'll tell you. And Liam will answer his critics. Somebody came on last week and said, "Well, that article about such and such was a bit of clickbait." And he went, "Well, sometimes you have to be a little bit like that with newspapers, because that's the game we're in." And we've seen Liam rise from being a journalist to an editor. And he's still a journalist at heart. And clickbait, as Colin Wilson says, it's bloody hard not to respond. But I think what we all have to realize as Newcastle fans is we need to. And I think if you listen to Stu Penman on this platform in particular, who says, trust the process, and Neil, who sometimes goes absolutely raj with you, and at other times talks as if he's Kofi Annan, like he has tonight, then, you listen to those two, you'll not go far wrong on this platform. And Keith and Steve have got more knowledge between them than most of us, who come on this show, just through campaigns in particular that they've been on, and business that they've been involved with. And that's why this show tries to be the common influence on a fan base that sometimes does get its knickers in a twist. So, Steve, I mean, look, financially, we know we need to improve the commercial revenue. We've got people coming in. We've just appointed another person who's been involved at the top end with Leicester, who turned, not water into wine. He turned 20 million into 200 million. So we shouldn't really be panicking. We will get other commercial deals through. Surely this is another piece in the jigsaw behind the scenes, and that's what this guy will do. But we've just got to be patient, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no question about it. I mean, people talk about Newcastle United, and I'm guilty as the next man at times when I sit back and think, God, if only we'd had 3 more points, or if only we had turned those draws into wins and stuff like that as the season was going on. And I remember during last season saying on the show, you know what, I think, we've drawn too many games. We might regret this at the end of the season. And yet you're saying it off the top of your head. And you're not potentially thinking, yeah, that's what's going to happen. But it's that excitement, isn't it? And it's the thought that you're going to get into the top 2 or the top 4 or qualify for Europe, or you're going to miss out on it. It's more the fact that you're thinking you could miss out than anything. And if I was to defend Luke, which is very unusual, I would say it's an opinion. Luke has an opinion that the club, perhaps if they don't get some of the people that they're looking for, especially when he's probably heard some of the names that have been bandied around in among the press pack of people that they think Newcastle are interested in. And he's probably sitting there going, you know what? Well, if we had these players, we'd be much stronger. If we don't get them, we're going to be weaker. And he's also looking, let's face it, at Man United, or he's looking at Liverpool. He's looking at Arsenal in particular. City haven't done much business yet. City seem to be losing players rather than the other, so that's got me worried because I'm thinking, Christ, how are they going to get to replace them?
Yeah, what's
It all
coming?
be youngsters. So there's a lot going on. The real things that worry me with Newcastle United, it's not what's happening within the sort of the corridors of uncertainty transfer wise. It's the fact that the people there, someone can make a decision that we're going to go ticketless. Great, excellent, but there are other people there who have made the decision that we're going to have a friendly or a group of friendlies. And for those games, it's not going to be ticketless, or it's going to be ticketless, but you can't be a member. If you're a member, you can't get a ticket because they haven't put, we forgot, we're going to do the membership scheme after we've done the season ticket bit and all that. And this is the chimneys, that operate. I asked a question. When I was up there yesterday, I asked a question about the ladies team and whether they will be going ahead with the same sponsors next season. And the answer was, we're not too sure. I says, it's just that, yes, you've used some of the players in the ladies team to promote Seller as the new shirt sponsor. But if the girls and the women or ladies team, or whatever you want to call it, are going to be operating like they did last season, but now professional, have they got going to have the same shirt sponsors? Oh, I don't know. And you're thinking, well, has somebody in the marketing team know, but you don't, because that's why they're wearing Seller? Or is it somebody in the marketing team that didn't know that they were going to have it and just stuck them in because they felt as though they should? It's little things like that. And you think, well, there's something not joined up. I've always said that all the way through under Ashley, that football club operated in chimneys. Departments didn't talk to each other. Departments weren't aware that something else was going on. There was no interaction. There was no sort of management control that way. There was no overriding person who looked at that sort of minutiae. I know you've got Eels at the top and you've got somebody else that's looking at this and somebody else that, the finance department. But there's the day-to-day management and the day-to-day control of what gets said and how the club operates. And it should knit together. And that's more of a concern for me, because that impacts on us. That impacts on us as fans in terms of the customer service that we're looking for. The fact that some of us want to buy tickets for family members and use a membership scheme that doesn't exist, or go onto a system where we think we can buy tickets, but when we get to the end, it doesn't let us, and things like that. And it just doesn't give a professional look. And I'm sure if I was the head of PIF and I was looking in, I'll be thinking, what on earth's going on here? Why are you operating like that? Who is running that particular aspect of the show?
As you can imagine, Steve and I have talked about this at length on and off this week for different reasons. In my little rant on Wednesday, I said about ticketing that that's something that's fundamental. It's not something like catering that would be nice to have right. It's got to be right. There's no two ways about it. My concern is at the moment, what was the drive to ticket this? Who's driving that? Who are they listening to drive it that way? And what's the problem? And then you chuck the away ticketing into the mix, which we could probably do a wonderfully show on, from what I've been told about certain things, and it would blow certain people's minds, I'm quite sure. So where's all this drive coming from, and who's actually in charge of the show, and who's driving this particular bus? Because it affects everybody. And we're in such a privileged position with this platform. You, Steve, and Steve and I in particular, and I know a few others, Stu, we get so many messages from people. I've had this happen, what do I do? And Steve and I have done it in the past at the Trust, and we've joked about us and bifferic.com doing it almost de facto for the club for 2 years. It shouldn't be happening like that now, and yet we are privileged enough to get this, and this is where it's important that we relay things as best as we can, and with no drama and no sensationalism, and not doing it in an ITK kind of fashion, and this whole, I know something you don't get lost, whatever. we have a fan base that's passionate, engaged, and is being engaged, but how important is that engagement actually to the people who are making the decisions? Because my personal feeling at the moment is they know what they want to do. And my message to them would be is if you know what you want to do, just do it. And we'll help you smooth the waves that you might cause by doing it afterwards. Don't pretend that you're actively engaging if it's only lip service. Engage properly if that's what you mean. If you know what you want to do it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, that's how you get a functional club. Sometimes you've got to make decisions that are shit. And you know you're going to upset people and you know you are. Don't do it the Ashley way. Don't wait till an international weekend and hope it goes away after 2 weeks. You know, but also engaging with people like us who have platforms where we can turn around to people and say, right, look, we know why you're pissed off. Feel you, get your point of view totally, but this is the decision. This is why I don't want to go this way with it, and this is how it all works out. Now, if we can, help smooth those ways, that's really important. We really are in a lucky and privileged position, like we were throughout the whole takeover, to have a 360 view of it. And so I think from everybody's point of view, it's super frustrating that people are getting upset and frustrated about things that probably should never have been a talking point. But if there's going to be something that you want to do and you think this is the way forward for you and for the club as the owners, just do it.
Yeah. Somebody put up there that somebody said that the ladies team had Fun 88. Well, they didn't. The ladies team in the middle of the season got a new sponsor. They got new shirt sponsors. They didn't wear Fun 88. Just so they may have had Fun 88 at the start of the season, but a local company came in and sponsored them. Perception and reality is two different things. One of the things I asked them, because you like to be organised, because you like to know in advance, because you like to plan if you're running something. I'll give you an example. The reason I asked one of the questions I asked was, is there going to be a fan zone for the weekend that they're playing the
Seller Cup?
Yeah, is there going to be a fan zone? Are you going to close Strawberry Place? Are you going to have entertainment on? Are you going to have stalls? What are you going to put up? Simply because that's where we situate ourselves opposite Shearers, as everybody knows, for the fans' food bank. And if there was going to be some entertainment going on there and penalty shootout competitions or whatever it happened to be, that might mean that we would have to consider being somewhere else, just being relocated, talking to them and finding out, well, where would you like us to be? Where can we be? What we're not allowed to be is on club property. So we're limited to Strawberry Place with the license that we get from the council. And it's not a criticism of Newcastle, because the council take ages to give you the license anyway. We'll get the license probably a day before, the official license a day before the season starts, even though you ask for it in May or June. But the answer I got was, we don't know. We're too busy organising the trip and what's happening in the USA. So we haven't got round to that yet. That's fine. I understand that it's a busy time. The club is trying to juggle a new fan zone situation, potential, dealing with new sponsors, and also going over and putting events on like they did in Saudi in December for the US fans. And they've got 3 locations to do it as well. So that makes it even more difficult. But there must be somebody there at the club who knows what's going to happen. Or you make the assumption that nothing's going to happen, and then we turn up on the Seller Cup and we find out 3 days beforehand in the Chronicle that there's going to be a fan zone, and then we're going to have to make the phone calls and go, where do we go? It's just, that I know it sounds trivial, but it's a professional organisation, it's a professional club, and it's a big club, and it means a lot to the city. It means a lot to the fans, and you're just hoping that things are done right.
I just want to bring Keith in because obviously I'm conscious, like we ended up jumping off tangent from like the sponsorships, etc. We ended up going on to tickets, and Keith's sitting there, and I haven't had a chance to get to Keith on it. So Keith, just your thoughts on further investment coming in. Are you know, we've talked about people being a bit concerned about the fact that there's lack of money coming in, as they are about lack of players, and we're trying to tell people stay calm. And then just jump onto your views on this whole ticket scenario. There seems to be a lot going on. I'll give you my experience at the minute. Me and my dad both managed to opt in for Champions League, League Cup, FA Cup tickets, no problem. My brother thought he had, then realised he couldn't. Sent an email to the box office 16 days ago and got a reply 13 days later. And of course, he's now missed the deadline. So now the club are saying that he can't have his Champions League tickets, he can't have his League Cup tickets, and he can't have his FA Cup tickets. So now I've got, you know, he's jumping in, he's backwards and forwards. Jan at the box office, yeah, it's a name that we're all familiar with, I think, is saying then, well, it's your tough luck. You know, you didn't log on for those tickets in time. So our Rob is now you know, my brother's having to go through this whole scenario again. It's a bit of a nightmare for him. But you know, where do you stand on all of this, Keith? The incomings from the, you know, the sponsorship, and
I think when you talk, I think a lot of the frustration is because Eddie Howe said he would like to get signings in early, and the Tonali deal didn't happen as quick as you wanted, even though it totally came out the blue. But it seemed to drag, and it seemed to, you know, when's it going to happen? So, and I think Harvey Barnes is the same. I think the same thing is that by all accounts it's a done deal, and you know, if that deal was over the line, you'd go to the next one. And you look at Southampton, they're hanging out. They've put a statement out to say if anyone wants our players, they'll pay top money. So Livermore, they're asking big money for him. I think Newcastle know exactly what they want. I think the frustration comes where people in the press are going out and putting articles out, and George has touched on it. And before I get to the point, when we talk about Kofi Annan or the ball from Dubai, I'd rather Mitch was full on and said it as it is, because when he kicks off, I always get entertained. But George has touched a good point, and you talk about Luke Edwards. You know, Steve hit it. Everybody's got an opinion, and I think equally people have got choices. So I think as fans we've got choices who we listen to and who we believe. And if Luke Edwards told me it was the 14th of July, Friday night, 2023, I'd run and check the calendar. When a man sits there and talks about a man coming over the hill on his camel, and that Henry Morris is going to buy Newcastle, you've got to sit there and say, he was saying that the week before the takeover. In the same week you saying that, I said to Justin Barnes, when was the last time you spoke to Piff? And he said, yesterday. And that was the same week. And I was saying that because that was the day that Luke Edwards put an article and said there is no takeover. The takeover is dead, it's gone, it's buried. And you're lucky in a sense, as Mitch is intimated, that we've got people on both sides of the fence who are involved in the takeover that could tell us factually what was happening. So you're lucky in the sense that you know that the Saudis are there and they know for fact that the deal is being done. But when a reporter does that, you've got to take stock of it. You've got to put that in your mind and think, right, he was the bloke a week before that said there's a man going to come over the top hill on his camel and he's going to buy the club. And it's not going to be PIF, it's not the Saudis. And then this week he's saying that Eddie Howe isn't happy with the club. And basically he's not happy with the money's being given for transfers, blah, blah, blah. I haven't seen the article because he's blocked me and I've blocked him, and my life's a much better place for it. And basically, like I don't get upset. You know, there's nothing he could say that could upset me, but he's just, you know, to me, he's a non-entity as far as journalists go in this area. I don't have any respect for him. I think he's anti-Saudi. I think at times he's anti-Newcastle, but I think he's a guesser. And I think when he puts articles out, I just think he's got nobody really. Steve Wraith touched it earlier about the club aren't really telling anybody, but I get the impression that you'd tell him maybe he's last if you were going to tell somebody. And that brings us on to where we go now and the choices. For fans' own mental health, it makes sense to ask a few things. First of all, if I give you a recommendation, right through the takeover, I trusted two journalists when I wanted to do something. I was doing things because the club were telling us to get stuff out. So they tell me, go to the reporter and put this out, get this out. And so I was doing what I was told. And I chose Liam Kennedy. Lock, stock and barrel. I got to bed with him. Just said, right, Liam, you're going to get out everything. And on one story, when I needed to go out in the Chronicle, that I used Lee Ryder. And he, again, was very reliable, very trustworthy with me. And I couldn't fault the pair of them. But since Liam's progressed, as Steve said earlier, from journalist to editor, he's recruited a lad. And my advice to people was trust him. Because the person that I read and get less bullshit off than all the rest is Jordan Cronin. He's a young lad, but he's brought from the same mentality and sort of mindset as Liam Kennedy. If you don't know, don't guess. And I've seen them get things to the point where they've even held back on something because they've not been totally sure of the source. And they're sometimes frightened to get it wrong. But if Jordan Cronin puts it out there and says, this is right, by God, it's right. And the one thing I'll say about him, and I know him and have met him, is he's got great contacts. So he hasn't just got one, he's got more than one contact. And he protects his contacts, as all good journalists do. But if you listen to someone like Jordan, you're getting it when he's allowed to tell people. And I think when you listen to him, you get a measured thing. And yes, there's 62 stories trying to break the, Maradona's on his way kind of story. But the reality is you're better off just reading the club stuff, the Sky stuff. And then if you're going to look at reporters, look at someone like young Jordan, because I think he's exceptional in what he does. But the last thing I say to Newcastle fans is just for your own mindset and your own mental health and your own well-being, stop and think for a minute. We are 2 years ahead of plans, and we are now in fourth place in the league, and we get the Champions League, and we now in a ball game where our FFP is improved because of the monies that's going to come. And you might see the benefit this next year, but ask yourself just one question before you go to bed and before you read all these articles that we've only got this much, we've only got that, we know you do this. If there's any truth in any of that, I think the only truth I believe is that Newcastle are running a much tighter ship than the other top six people in salaries. So I think Newcastle will happily wave goodbye to a Madison because they're not going to get in a Dutch auction on wages. And I think Newcastle have more restriction on wages than what the other clubs do. We would never get a Casemiro at 400,000. So that's probably the only truth on that. But ask yourself, will Newcastle beat time, qualify for the Champions League, and then hold back and fall back? Do you think PIF would accept going from 4th to 7th? Because I don't. And I think if we fall back out the Champions League, I think people will lose their jobs, because I think they demand success. They are successful and they come first at everything they do. And I think that Newcastle, as fans, just wait. And on the 1st of September, if we haven't got the signings, I'm in the same camp as Neil. I think there'll be 2 more big signings coming, but they might be clever. One might be a free transfer. One might be a loan deal. But I think there'll be 2 big players coming. I think there'll be, when the season starts, I think you'll have 3 people that can get in that first team every week. And when it doesn't happen on the 1st of September, then you've got the right to gripe and feel sorry. But when we gripe as fans, we look daft because the date's not over. You know what I mean? It's like complaining about what you got for Christmas on the 23rd of December. It hasn't happened yet. Let it happen and stop listening to daft buggers who go in the press and talk horse shit because they've got no information.
Yeah, well said, Keith, and well said, all the lads. Everybody in the chat thoroughly enjoyed that. As they often do, enjoy this. And straight in with this one from Stu Penman. Is this you, Steve Hasty?
Penman.
Holiday Hasty from Toon Boy.
Them yellow padded Steve.
And Art Never Sleeps, Steve Hasty in a shed.
What?
Good.
And Stuffed Animal Hasty from Jimmy Muir.
Jimmy.
Tune lookalike, an angry looking Steve Hasty from Andy Embleton.
I felt like that at times, I tell you.
And just popped down the mother-in-law's and found Steve Hasty chilling out on the sofa from Andrew Harper.
Bit and dab of our old dog.
Steve and his Doctor Who days.
Yep. Take that.
And as always, for Hasty.
They're not for me, they're for Keith. They are only put up for Keith's benefit. You know that. People saying it's for me.
Top right.
Hasty out on a stroll, says Andy Cooper. And Hasty in touch with his feminine side, says Andy Cooper.
And this is where he goes, people doing dog's hair like that.
Rita doesn't like to forget Steve Hasty.
No, Rita loves me.
And Hasty gasping for a drink, says Andy Cooper. Andy's on a flyer this week.
Yes,
we had this one as well from Albert. Hasty's application picked for the ghost train at the Hoppins.
Yeah.
And I think Hasty's taking the Atkins diet too far, says Albert.
Yeah, me.
Okay, now
into the after his diet, that.
And guess who? Says Sam Chipperfield.
Is it Keith?
He also says James May before he went full Steve Hasty.
Yeah, me. Look at the plate of that.
Axl Rose and Benny Hill.
Yep, spot on.
Yeah.
That's very good.
Very good, that one. Tonali and Roger Waters from Pink Floyd from Ugly Camel.
Yeah,
that's good. That.
And another one, actor Tahar Rahim and Sandro Tonali. He's got a few lookalikes, the boy, hasn't he? He's very
Hasty.
He is. Marco De Moria from Gamora and Pep Guardiola. That's a brilliant one, by the way, William.
That is good, that.
Really good ones this week, by the way, chaps. It's No Hank from the TV show Barry a Young Time. Traveling Stu Penman, I think it could be. Pretty good as well, because some of these bald ones they're just bald, and that's it. Thanos and Mitch in Melbourne. Mitch, where are you? You're missing out on that. I'll bring it back.
Yeah,
I'll bring it back. Gary Monk and Nicholas Lindsay.
I'll take Thanos, like.
I thought you would. There you are, Mitch. I'll show you. There you go.
How good's that, Mitch?
John Carver and Smeagol. Andy Selkirk, the actor.
Oh my God.
Very good. I've never seen that's a new one. Never been sent that one before.
No.
Columbo and Jose Mourinho. Again.
Yeah. He did watch a game from one eye though at times, didn't he?
Yeah. Allison and Alice off. I tell you what, as well, in the eyes department. Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It is the same person, isn't it?
It is.
The beard.
Yes.
Nose and eyes.
I thought it was. Rublev and Damian Lewis from Tim Cairns.
That is good. That is.
I told you the standard is high this week, chaps. The standard is very high. Lookalike, me meeting Dom Jolly. Thanks his dudeness. Notice you're in the chat tonight as well. Good to see you. Andy and Hull is in the chat tonight. Christina Applegate and Mandy.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mitch, George, and Hasty and his friend have gone over to the dark side.
Classic, that is classic.
I love the seagull.
No.
And Alcaraz and
Wait,
Bruno.
you can't have a Sunderland picture without a seagull.
No, you can't. You're right there. We've got a great top three, by the way, but this isn't it. Alan Shearer and Dawn French open a B together in Northumberland.
Class.
Hugh Edwards and Mick Hucknall. Mrs. Hugh Edwards, sorry.
All right. I thought it was the other Hugh.
No, that's Mrs. Hugh Edwards and Mick Hucknall. Very
not
good.
Hugh from the BBC.
Daniel Farke and Stephen Henry.
His wife.
Yeah.
Told you there's some good ones. This was a late one from Gareth.
It's good, that.
Rabsy Nesbitt and Sam Smith.
It's really good, that.
And then we've got the King. Sorry, Your Royal Highness.
Imagine being compared to a monkey.
That was sent in by Rita Oxley. I don't have her address, but if you want to if you want to take action, contact Rita.
It's all right.
Same to you, Sir
MI5
Tom.
don't need to know it.
That's class, that is. Isn't that
Same to
good?
you, Sir Tom. Just contact Rita. Yeah. I'm not a
Liam
grass,
Kennedy.
but it looks like someone's moonlighting selling learner driver courses. Liam
That
Kennedy.
is.
Right, lads, you ready for this top three?
I hope it's a dog.
No. This is a great top three. Number 3,
It's good, that.
Madonna
Really
and
good.
the Space Raiders character.
Really good, that. 100 grand.
Number 2, George Mitchell and Lobot.
Boy, I'm making it now, man. That's great.
The winner this week, though, you just got pipped at the post by this young lad. That is brilliant, Toon Boy. That is
Lord.
absolutely brilliant.
That is quality, that.
Take a bow, son. Take a bow. But the standard of lookalikes this week is the best we have had on this show. Keep them coming in like that. Let's have some good old lookalikes and ones we
Keep
haven't
them
had
dogs
before.
coming in, man.
Keep them dogs coming. Well, Rafe, that's United out the window. I don't think it was ever in the offense, Stephen. But thanks for the thanks for that. And you're quite right, Tom. Rita's going to the tower. Finally, lads, I can answer this question because I've done this. Would you ever take a job at Newcastle United? Now, I did it as the fans liaison officer, and I've got to be honest. It was a dream come true to take the job. It was a nightmare doing it because once the club, for me, do something that I disagree with, I can't keep my mouth shut. I've got to tell them where they're going wrong. That is probably what makes this channel and this particular show so popular, because we're not afraid to speak our mind. And as Mitch quite rightly pointed out earlier, we don't always agree. However, the club, as I'm sure most of you will be aware, if you read the Evening Chronicle, certainly, will know that they're advertising what the Chronicle called a dream job for any fan, as Amanda Stabley delivers another promise. Lee Ryder wrote the article, and it's a fan engagement role, which both Amanda Stabley and Darren Eales, the chief executive, have spoken about, and they want to take the club up a notch when it comes to supporter relations at the club. The title of the job is Fan Engagement Coordinator. And as fan engagement and events coordinator, you will be working for the club. And for instance, Nobby Solano went across to Riyadh during the club's winter tour. He met up with, he also met up with fans in the United States in May. So there's an opportunity to get abroad and to liaise with the fans abroad. It's an interesting job. I wouldn't say it is the greatest paid job. I think we saw it was in the region of 24k per annum. Yeah. However, let's just put this onto a wider spectrum, Mitch. If there was an opportunity, not necessarily for that job, there might be something you're more used to. There could be club dentist. George could be club lawyer. Steve could be chief dog walker. Keith could be admin, writing letters. If there was a job that suited your particular talents and it was up for grabs at the club, would you want to do it, Mitch? And would you apply?
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, Steve. And I think if it was the right role, at the right remuneration, at the right time, I'll have no qualms with taking it on. I think I'm confident enough to hold my own ground in any scenario with anybody within the club. I would speak my mind. Everybody knows that. Anybody who knows us knows that. That doesn't necessarily mean you can't work within the club and work for the club for the greater good, even if you disagree with the path that's being taken. I've said many times before when we've spoken to fans in the past, particularly when Steve and I were setting the trust up, the transition from the original NUFC to NUFC. The biggest thing that I took out of all of that was our fans like to be heard out. And even if you disagree with them and they disagree with you, they will indeed agree to disagree if they feel that they've been fairly heard out. And therefore, I think there's ways to make rules within the club work as a fan that don't, you don't necessarily have to compromise your position on always. These things are a lot about an ability to communicate at all levels, and ability to give and take. I would take a role with the club in a heartbeat, and I would make it work. Personally, I feel that I think I'm at the stage of my life where I'm comfortable in my own skin, and I can say what I like, and don't really give a damn about what people think. I gave all my fucks away about 2.5 years ago. And so, it's one of these things whereby I think I could walk into a scenario like that, and aim to work for the greater good. Everything we certainly have ever been involved with has been about the bigger picture. It's been about the advancement of Newcastle United Football Club on and off the pitch, being about advancement of Newcastle United Football Club within the community that it serves and it represents. And I think I've got a bigger aspect on it all from 10 years of being expat. I wish I had the expat experience when I was chair of the trust, that's for sure. I think the trust would have been a different beast by now, had I fully understood and grasped all of that. And I think Steve, with the experiences of his daughter, probably would see that to a degree as well. And so, yeah, I would do it in a heartbeat, mate. I would have no qualms about it at all. And if the club were to reach out to me and say, now, look, we want to get you involved with something like the Fans Advisory Board, for example, I'll make no bones about it. I was in a Zoom meeting with the Fans Liaison Officer about a month ago, and I quite firmly chucked my hat in the ring and said, if you're going to do something like that, I feel like I'm in a position where I can influence it positively and represent people in a fair and even-handed way from all over the globe. And I would do that without any pay. I wouldn't want any remuneration for that. I could fit that around my life. So, it's that kind of thing. Yes, I would do it in a heartbeat, mate. Is the short answer. I can give you an even longer answer again if you like, but that's the short answer.
No, I think it's great, and it's great to hear that you would, Mitch. As I say, for me, once bitten, twice shy.
I get where you come from, and I get why. When there was somebody still within the club who used the club's Twitter account to attack you directly, that's shite. That's poor. That was showing Newcastle United Football Club in such a poor light, and that was personal, and obviously personal from that individual as well. And that's not how it should work. And I think that's not how this Newcastle United would work either.
I definitely think you're right.
However, there's definitely still people within Newcastle United that still of that mindset that I would have no qualms of pointing the finger at and saying they need to be either trained up or trained out.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. Okay, George, same question to you. If there was a job there, I mean, somebody put something really nice in the chat there. I'm sure you probably saw it. Sean said, get George in to talk to our young fans, to talk about our past. Ever since he joined the panel, I've enjoyed every minute listening to him. Knowledge is A1. Uncle George, the true Geordie. That's very kind, Sean. And George, would you take a job at the club if you were offered one?
Yes, I would. Having failed to get onto the playing side, it would be great to get involved in the other side to make the club better for supporters, particularly. And my experience in all sorts of areas, from my own professional area, working in arbitration courts and as a magistrate, and working for the Home Office and having the bollocks to say to a Home Secretary that he was talking bollocks and he didn't like it, but I still said it. So I think that's where I would fail, because like you, Steve, I would have to have me say. I couldn't bite me lip. I'd have to say what was right, what I thought was right. But yes, I would want to give it a go and try and make it work, because there's there is a job, well, several jobs I think to be had, and I would yes, I'd be delighted to be involved in that. And I think what they're doing at the moment, the salary they're advertising, needs to be ×3 in my opinion, but that's the minimum. But that's another issue. But yes, I would want to give it a go, Steve.
Okay, Steve, it's a you know, it's a fascinating opportunity, and I'm sure there'll be quite a few people who we know who probably put themselves up for the job. You know, maybe it's, you know, sometimes, I'm not saying this is the case with Newcastle, there might even be somebody who they've got in mind, you know, they have to go through the process. You know, it does happen in lots of places where somebody has already been, I don't want to use the phrase hand-picked because that's not probably right, but somebody who maybe is one or two potential people, and if they put themselves in, they're going to go to the top of a pretty big pile. But yeah, I mean, would you do it, Steve? You know, and I'm not saying even go back 20 years, Steve. Go back. Well, let's go back into the 23 years ago when I was fans liaison officer and I got the opportunity to go in. You know, had that opportunity been offered to you 23 years ago, would you have taken
it? Yes, at a heartbeat. Because I think most Newcastle fans would. The opportunity to work for the club, the opportunity to feel as though you had something to offer, the opportunity to actually implement change at the club and to influence people and influence the direction the club was taking. It depends on the role, doesn't it? I mean, it depends on your own personality. It depends on your skill set. Now, looking at it from a position now, I mean, my knowledge and experience, I'd be delving. I'd want to go in at the very top, and I'd want to delve into what's going on wrong and what can be put right. And I'd want to be that troubleshooter. I wouldn't want to be pigeonholed into, organising an event at a football club. I think the salary that they're offering tells me that they're looking for someone, because I don't think they've weighted the job right. I don't think it's weighted for the responsibility that could come with the job, with what they're looking to do, the interaction that they're looking for. It's an important role for fans. It's an important role for the fans that they're going to be meeting. It should be an easy job, to be perfectly honest, to just organise events where you're bringing along ex-players or current players or representatives of the club to meet fans, to talk about football. It'd be just like having, like being on a show like this, but doing it to an audience live, you know, and in terms of the responsibility, you're the one who's made sure that everybody turns up on the day. You're the one who makes sure that the catering's there, that the invites went out, that there's enough seats, that there's enough tablecloths, there's enough pens, whatever it happens to be. That's the organisation aspect of it. I'm not being big-headed here, but I'm beyond all that type of thing now. But as I say, as a fan 23 years ago, the thought of working at the football club that you adore, the football club that you supported from a child, just as the dream was always that you wanted to play for the football club, but you weren't good enough. But this would be the next best thing to be working. Having said that, I've heard of people who have taken the opportunity to work for Newcastle United and hated every minute of it and couldn't wait to get out because of very similar to what Mitch said, the personalities above them, the personalities sitting alongside them, the personalities and the attitudes of people, the empires that are built within an organization like that, the walls that are built within an organization like that are very difficult to break through or break down. They talk about a glass ceiling in industry, don't they? Well, you know what? I think Newcastle United, it's a concrete ceiling, to be perfectly honest, and has been for many, many years. So, as I say, somebody's going to get a dream job. Somebody's going to really, really take that job to their heart and enjoy it, because it should be a job that you enjoy. But I think I'm too one of those people that would just be delving into everything. Because I know so much, I'd want to put everything right. I'd want to make sure everybody was working, and I don't suffer fools gladly. Quite honestly, you know, I suppose you could describe me as a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to that. On a professional sense, if you're employed to do something, you do it right. And if you make a mistake, you admit your mistake, and you work and you ask, and then you help and make sure that it's put right. I think in Newcastle United, my experience is that it's a scattergun approach at times, and that would really, really frustrate me if I was in those corridors, because I don't think you would get the opportunity to repair what I think needs to be repaired, fix what I need to be fixed, and put in place what I think's missing.
Yeah, it's great point, Steve. Great point. And I think I would be the same. I mean, this particular job, maybe when I started doing events 20 odd years ago, 25 years ago, would be right up my street. But, I'm not so much into the events these days, concentrating on the other avenues. But it's, but yeah, it's certainly for a younger person, I think, somebody who's up for a challenge. And of course, they'll be working with Seller as well, who specialize in doing this abroad. So it'll be interesting. It'll be a good starting point for somebody who maybe wants to make a name for themselves in that particular industry, who can go on to make a success from the. We'll see. Keith, finishing just with on this, mate. If there was a job that suited you, what would you do?
You just said there it's for a younger person, so that probably rules me and George out straight away. But it's I think what you got to do is if you answer that question. When I was in my early 40s, well, late 30s, early 40s, I got headhunted by somebody from an agency for the club, and this was pre-Ashley days, where they want a sales and marketing director, and that's at the time what I did back then. And so yes, I was interested, and yes, it sounded like the perfect job, to get to earn what you were getting at the time. Working for the football club that you loved. At the time, I couldn't have thought of a better job, and to the point where I had job offers that it was well paid, but there was job offers double that pay, but it's if I'd got at the time things went the way they were going, then it would have been something you would have found hard to turn down. When you talk about a fan engagement officer being paid a salary of 24,000, if you do the maths, it's quite easy. 40-hour week on minimum wage, about £10 an hour, and you're getting 20 grand for minimum wage. So when they're giving somebody 24 grand, they're pretty much saying that this isn't a job where they want the thinking man.
Yeah.
This is a job where they want all the people, all of you lot spoke on here tonight about your capability, your ability to look at the situation, to be a helicopter, look down on something, and direct people and help. This is. I don't belittle it, but it's a role where you'd be told what to do, because if it wasn't, your salary would be 50 to 75,000 if it was somebody that had to think about it. Personally, I'm a director of 4 companies. If I was going to take a job, I'd have to sell 3 of them companies, which I have a stake in, and own 2 of them myself. And them days of looking at jobs I had, I work as an MD of 3 companies and a director of a 4th. So probably the roles that I could get in a football club are limited. You know what I mean? But certainly it would be a nice thing selling your businesses off and finishing, the last 10 years of your working life doing something in Newcastle United. But fan engagement. The reason I couldn't do that is because I'm a fan who has very, very low expectations. I don't want anything from Newcastle United other than to watch them win something. And that's the share of a lot of people. So all I want to do is get into that ground somehow, get into these games, watch us win, have a beer and go home. So then it becomes difficult if I was that person, even 30 odd years ago, where I was representing people that had massive expectations, like some of the expectations this week online is fans who want to know when we're going to sign and who we're going to sign and how much we've got to spend. And people have got big expectations. I know Steve Wraith mentioned his brother earlier, and there has been a lot of cock-ups lately. There was a lot of cock-ups at Wembley, and there's got a lot of cock-ups with tickets lately. And rather than get into it, I just think that it needs a fan who patiently wants to go through every single complaint. And in my day, I've done those kind of things. I worked with Amstrad and took every complaint from everybody digitally online. Every B2C customer, when they complained, came to me. But I was 25-year-old, and I was a general manager doing it, and I get a buzz out of making somebody happy. But it's a young person's job. That it's not a Steve Hasty, it's not a Neil Mitchell. That job advertised there is somebody who's 23-year-old who can be told to do things, some of the things they don't agree with, and who just relentlessly try and sort shit out, and you'll have plenty to sort out.
Great stuff. Some great comments. I'm a Geordie living in Cambridge. I love this show. Keeps me informed of what's happening in my beloved club. Keep up the good work, lads. I'm 66 and I've supported the tune all my life. Thank you, Tom. Mick Gilchrist, the winner of the Shearer Bowl, which will be coming to you very soon this week, mate. As always, a cracking show with great insight. Have a good weekend, everyone. Tim Cairns, always enjoy watching the Amigos show. And Ian Hull says, it's rare as hen's teeth that I watch this live due to me shift, but it's been brilliant, especially some of the fan rants up on Twitter over the transfer window. Nail on the head. And Ian, thanks for all your stuff that you send us, mate. It's great to see you in the chat tonight, mate. Top man. And Benny says one of the young lads that operates other channels, Adam or Matty, probably in the ilk of what the club are after. Yeah, and good luck to them if they get the opportunity. I know probably won't be Matty. I know he's going to be doing work placement with Sky. Adam, does he have any experience in events? I don't think so. But again, Adam pushing hard to get where he wants to be. And none of us on here have got any issues with that. Okay, I, believe it or not, haven't got a troll of the week. So, Julie, just for you, I'll play the music.
Ball Tory nonce.
Yeah, thank you.
That's his what 3 words. That's his what 3 words.
Actually,
go on.
Yours is wrote 1 letter.
Just 1 letter.
His is raised it. Yeah, his is raised the lunatic, and Steve's is Scooby Dooby Doo.
We discussed that earlier.
I was going to say I nearly sent you a troll of the week for me because I've been getting messages from someone, and then I realised when I looked at the messages, it wasn't. How can it be a troll? Because your trolls say nasty things about you. My trolls saying nice things about us, which are quite embarrassing, really. But I've told her to find a lad who's near her age and not old enough to be a grander.
Classic. On that note, thanks to Mitch, thanks to George, thanks to Steve, thanks to Keith, thanks to all the moderators, thanks to everybody in the chat, thanks to you all at home for watching. Take care. Have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy the Gateshead game, and I will be back 9:30 in the morning with Liam Kennedy to look ahead to that. Take care, guys. Good night.
Good night.
Good to see you, lads. Good to see you, lads.
We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange